Hello. Many Magic the Gathering players ask the question, can Magic the Gathering, or perhaps more accurately Magic Arena, assuming that is a different thing, ever truly be an esport? Well, I've been really wanting to have this conversation for a long time, so I'm so happy to have Amanda Stevens here with us today. Amanda, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Prof. I'm excited to talk about how wonderful the Magic the Gathering esport viewing experience is.
That's quite a loaded comment right off the start. For those of you who are unfamiliar, Amanda is a diversity and inclusion consultant and former esports and Magic the Gathering content creator. That does not in any way do justice to the myriad of titles and history that she has in the community, more focused on esports now, which is why I invited her here today. She is definitely someone with a keen insight into the industry as a whole. And viewers of this channel know I have, on occasion, had a few Magic pros on to talk about related things, and of course, Magic casual creators such as myself to talk about it. But I'm so excited to hear what an actual industry, I don't know if, is it fair to go as far as insider? I feel like you've definitely got insider perspective, and
more so than like the average person you're probably going to have on my channel, and probably more so than like the average like consumer of esports.
So I'm really excited. I'm going to start with this. Can you just define for me what is an esport? When we say, because this whole conversation is about whether or not Magic can truly be an esport, what do we mean when we say esport?
So, you know, it's really difficult sometimes to define what an esport is, because like different people consider different games to be esports, right? So if you go with like the most stringent definition of what an esport is, you're going to have somebody who says that it is a competitive video game. And those video games, there's like tiers of like what is like a real esport, similar to how you say like, I don't know, there are tiers to Magic decks, right? When we play a Legacy Open, if you're playing something like Miracles, right, that's a real Legacy deck. But if you say, I'm going to a Legacy Open and I'm going to play Meat Hooks, someone might look at you and be like, that's not a good deck.
I don't actually know what Meat Hooks is. I'm almost a little afraid to ask.
It's Slivers.
Oh, Slivers. Slivers isn't considered a real Legacy deck? What about Merfolk? Okay, so if I'm showing up Legacy Merfolk...
Tier 2. When we talk about like Tier 1 esports, we're obviously talking about games like CSGO, Overwatch, League of Legends, and Dota 2. Those are like the like current big four. StarCraft has started to fall by the wayside. That's kind of the progenitor of a lot of esports.
That's the only one I know of all of those. This is why I had to bring you in.
So that's like the super strict definition of esports, right?
Okay.
Competitive video games designed to be played competitively. Now, the longer esports has become a thing, the bigger the market has become, the more loose the definition has started to grow to be competitive gaming, and not necessarily competitive games, right? Like Overwatch, League of Legends, Dota, but now, oh, are you a speedrunner? You're competing in an esport. Oh, do you play like online chess? That's an esport. Do you play Magic the Gathering on this little known platform called Magic Arena? That's an esport, right? The bigger that esports has become, sort of in the mainstream media, the more the definition of esports has sort of flexed, because it's the same thing for like, you know, Band-Aids, right? A Band-Aid isn't a Band-Aid, it's adhesive strip. But it's such a colloquial term that it's just anything that you use to put over a wound, right? You say you put a Band-Aid on it. So any form of competitive gaming has started to become an esport.
Okay, so I think maybe a good response to that definition is to say, well, we can technically call Magic Arena, and even by that definition, Magic Online, an esport in that they are competitive online or video, as the kids call it, games, that our question might be about terms of success. As a content creator, I'm all obsessed with views. So the question is, can Magic the Gathering ever be a successful esport? What does success mean? Well, I'd definitely say viewership is a big one, and you already made a comment alluding to issues with viewership and just Magic gameplay. Let's start with the good. What do you think Magic has going for it in the good category for being a successful esport? Because I think that's the shorter of the two. Then we get to bad.
Yeah, so here's the thing, right? Success is obviously slanted based on like what you think your actual metrics are going to be. So like my expectations for Magic viewership are definitely different than my expectations for, say, League of Legends or Dota or CSGO. Even if we can say that Magic might somehow compete in player base, just by, we don't know how many kitchen table Magic players there are out there, right? There's no way to track that information. We can only really track what's going on Magic Arena, online, and make guesstimates based on sales. But, like, it's not sort of the same hard numbers that, like, League of Legends can try to give you. So, one, I have to scale my expectations. And I will say that as a product, Magic Arena is everything that I think Magic should have had years ago for a digital viewing experience to captivate the interests of a non endemic Magic player. Someone who isn't me and you, right? People who already love Magic, understand what's going on the board, even if we don't know the nuances of a deck. We at least know those are lands, that's a planeswalker, those are creatures, so on and so forth, right? So that, I will say, Magic Arena is really pretty to look at. You play an Uro, right? And Uro pops out on the screen and there's the thunder effect and it looks really cool. I haven't watched a ton of Magic Arena gameplay as far as professionally, so I don't know if they've cut out a lot of those animations, but it looks cool. It looks as captivating as Hearthstone looked when it came out. And I was like, man, if only Magic Online looked like Hearthstone, people would want to play it. But the problem is, Magic Online looks like Cockatrice, or any of the other myriad of non-official ways to play Magic Online, right? It doesn't look like an official product.
It definitely looks out of time. It looks like something from another era, and I think it looked like that even when it was new.
And that's been a complaint of Magic Online for years, and it became a bigger complaint when Duels of the Planeswalkers came out. Magic Arena is sort of older sibling. This looks great. Why can't Magic Online look like this? What's the team disconnect? And so I will say that the positive, the indisputable fact is that Magic Arena looks good. It is a very good product to look at.
Yes.
I think commentary has gotten better over the years.
Oh, sure.
And this is because we're not just using pros. WotC and Channel Fireball, and to an extent Star City Games, they've started to use people who have only been interested in Magic in so much as they want to be Magic commentators. And I think for the longest time, to the detriment of Magic, differently than esports, the rest of esports, is that Magic has had this worship complex when it comes to broadcast, where it has to be somebody who is respected by the pros, works on the game, or is or was a pro player. And if you're not one of those three things, you don't deserve to be on the broadcast. There is nothing you could ever give to the broadcast that is of value to the viewer.
We've certainly come a long way since that philosophy. I'm very pleased to say. I even just as a filthy casual myself, coverage in all those areas you described is I think the best it's ever been. And I think throwing off the shackles of that philosophy is one of the many, many ways in which it's improved.
So I think visually and the quality of commentary, not to say that the old school commentary was bad, right? I have nothing against Marshall or when they would have Kibler on. All of the old broadcast standbys, they did a great job. But I also have to remember, and I brought this up in my Twitter thread the other day, which is what sparked us wanting to do this episode of the Untitled Magic podcast, is it's impossible to look at something like Magic as if you didn't already know what was going on. For some games, it's pretty easy to go, oh, well, CSGO, right? Counter-Strike Global Offensive. What is the goal of that game? One team is the terrorists, one team is the counter-terrorists. One team wants to set up a bomb, the other team wants to stop them.
You're going to get me demonetized. Can you please, instead of terrorists, say makeup tutorial? And instead of bomb, say carpool karaoke? Otherwise, the YouTube algorithm is just going to bury this. No, I'm just kidding.
There's a whole lot more that goes on in a CSGO match, right?
Right.
Positioning, the whole finance of in between rounds, buying weapons and resources and yada yada yada. There's so much going on, and if you're a huge CSGO fan, like that all matters to you. As a Magic person, it's really hard to separate the viewing experience in a way that the non-viewer, the non-player can understand. Maybe that's just my personal opinion, but I've heard this echoed a lot from other people in Magic, that knowing just how lands work
Sure.
is just something that you can't easily always convey to a new person. And so there's this knowledge barrier that comes with having to watch Magic at any level that explains the Oedipus of that tweet that everybody was referring to, of like, why do Magic numbers not compete with esports numbers? And it's like, I can turn on a CSGO match and be like, oh, that team has won that many maps, they have this much money, and currently they have 2 people to the other team's 1 currently alive. This looks like a win for this team. But like, if I look at a board for Magic, what's going on? And then they thought, and I this is one of those things that like I don't like about current coverage, is they put the advantage thing on the screen now. I used to play competitive Magic, so like I know why it's there, and I can tell who has the advantage once you explain the decks to me. But let's be real, let's do active player, non-active player names. So if Nancy, non-endemic person watching Twitch, turns on the Mythic Invitational 10, right? There is a chance that Nancy has no clue
what's going on.
And Albert, the active Magic fan, is talking to Nancy and trying to explain everything. It would be very difficult, at best, for Nancy to absorb everything Albert is telling them and watching the match. There has to be a healthy balance of, this is how the game works, and this is what you're watching right now. Because if you try to do too much of one or the other, Nancy won't learn anything. Nancy will get frustrated, and Nancy will, tune into Pokemon, right? Or Ninja. Like, just, nope, sorry, we're not watching this on Twitch today, Albert. Like, I just don't have the time.
Anyone who has ever tried to teach a friend who doesn't already know how to play Magic, knows a little bit of what you're describing, which is that Magic is just not a game we're watching without any help or tutelage, where you're just going to pick up what is happening. And that's just at its base, at its core, at its foundation. And then you try and digitize that. You try and stream that. You've got a live match going on, not a thing that's post-edited where you can have commentary coming in explaining move by move. And it's either you know it or you don't, and you're not going to pick it up. If you're flipping channels, a lot of these other games, I joked at the beginning of this episode, I haven't heard of half those games you mentioned as the top games, but I'm willing to bet that even me, who doesn't follow that stuff, we could put it on right now, and after 5 minutes of watching, I'd be like, yeah, I get what's going on enough that I could probably be entertained. Whereas with Magic, it's labyrinthian, and that's the design of the game. In many ways, you might say that's the appeal, but that's also why we don't get the views, right? I mean, why the only people viewing Magic are the people that are already in the know. And so the goal with Arena, I think, with all the flashy graphics, was to try and get it so somebody could flip around and just totally be tuned in to what's happening. But no matter how flashy you make those graphics, I don't personally think it's possible to convey in a live setting what's going on in a game if you're not already in the know about how Magic operates. I don't think it's possible. The only way you can do it is like a show like Game Nights is able to, with heavy post-production, play by play, have the players make commentary on their own moves, and that's part of what they do on that show. That is why a lot of people who aren't in Magic watch and enjoy it.
One of the things that I've always heard when people bring up the unwatchability of Magic is you'll have Magic friends, you'll have Magic fans, and friends of mine too, be like, well, League of Legends is gobbledygook.
Right.
And fair, right? I can do the same thing I did with CSGO. What are you trying to do in League? Blow up the other base. What's the other base? Mm-hmm. The thing behind the walls. There's a thing called a Nexus. You want to destroy towers on your way to the Nexus, and if you destroy the Nexus, game over. Right? There's no other way to win. It's just blow up the Nexus. Now, what happens in a game of League of Legends outside of that, obviously is very intricate. There's a lot of moving parts. There's going to be terms thrown around that you don't know. Sounds like another game that we may know. But here's the difference. The commentators, colloquially we call them shoutcasters, they'll try to explain some of the nuances, item purchases, why they went and got that objective now as opposed to doing something else on the map. And so if you try to sit and actively listen as well as watch, you can kind of get a lot of the moving parts. Sure, certain things are going to be stay gobbledygook, and sometimes a lot of things is going to be happening on the screen and you can't follow it. But at the end of the day, you're also actively engaged because there's a lot of stuff that's happening. Now, remember when I gave that compliment to Magic Arena that it's a very pretty thing and the effects are really cool, and you play a big creature, you play your Galta, and Galta comes out and roars. That's really cool. I love it. As like a casual gamer, all those effects are great. How often does that happen during an arena game, though? This is where I'm coming from when I talk about Magic being a pretty poor viewing experience, is when I say that there's a barrier that you need to know knowledge, and why I compared it to poker, and not in the way that most people compare Magic to poker, is that I know nothing about poker. I understand it from like a very, very basic way. I will occasionally watch the World Series of Poker, though, because you've got these colorful characters, people with their big-ass hats and their sunglasses, trying to, like, hide their tells, and sometimes there's cutaway to, like, pre-recorded stuff to, like, tell you the background of a player. That stuff I think is super cool. And then, like, there's the percentage screen, right, when they show you the hand and they tell you, like, what the percentage is based on what's on the river, whether or not this person's going to win the hand. That stuff's super cool because I know jack all about poker. You can't do that with Magic.
Right.
You literally cannot. You can put somebody who loves poker, right, probably thought, oh, well, if we add the advantage thing to a Magic game, they'll know what's going on. No, there's a lot of, the quiet part of Magic that has to be filled, right, with the commentators talking about the game. And the problem is, when there's quiet things happening in League, or Overwatch, or CSGO, you can just explain the game to people. You can talk about the players, but more often than not, you can explain what is happening, why it slowed down, when is it going to probably accelerate again. You can do all of these things to keep people focused on the game. But here's the thing. Even if you don't know the jargon of League of Legends, you can kind of piecemeal what's being said, right? The game is slowed down because the other team has more gold. And because they have more gold, they have better items, so it's not safe to fight now, so we probably won't see them fight until a major objective is back on the map. I can say that in a more complicated way of like, oh, Orianna, she has her ultimate ready in Flash, and she also has her Luden's Echo, and so she has a lot of power right now, and all of this starts to turn into gobbledygook for you and the listeners. At the end of the day, you can hear more gold. What does gold mean? Resource. They have more resource. They have more items than the other person, which means more power, so it would not be a good fight, right? Simple.
Well, Magic isn't simple. Magic is not simple by definition, no matter how many dinosaurs you can animate swallowing up a card. That doesn't make the game any more simple. And to even just try and explain, again, like the number of times I have had to try and explain just pieces of a game to someone who doesn't play, and it's all but hopeless because Magic doesn't have a straightforward approach. And I worry very much so that as we start to discover more and more that that's the issue. It's not the interface. We went and we solved the interface issue. We've got a splashy, colorful, animated interface, but Magic's super complex. It's so complex that you can't follow it. Is to kind of like, are we going to go at war with ourselves? Isn't the very nature of Magic that it's complicated? Shouldn't that be what we're embracing almost? Isn't you're going to have to correct me if my reference is right or wrong here, but isn't it like that game I believe called Dark Souls that's so complicated that that's the appeal, and that people who love it, they say you will not understand how to play this game and that's what you love about it, is that you get to dive deep into it. And that's Magic. Magic isn't chess. Magic isn't poker. It's like if chess and poker had a baby that went to grad school. It's just so far above all of that maybe we don't want to be a successful esport because that goes against the very nature of this game.
So I'm going to be honest with you. Magic is a very complex game, and the Dark Souls analogy does kind of work. That it is the complexity, the difficulty cap is part of the game experience. And to an extent, Magic is at the competitive level, not the casual level, not our 1DH decks. The competitive level is that sort of thing. Because even if you play an aggro deck, there are so many moving parts to making your aggro deck face off against the mid-range deck, the combo deck, the control deck, that it's just not a simple game. I think there is a world where you can display live, competitive Magic to the layperson.
How? Because we're not doing it now, right? We agree with that? We're not doing it now?
Yeah. I mean, so here's my big... And this was something that I've said to Watsy in the past. You have to figure out a way to display information that is not coded. That's not codified. And what I mean by that is maybe it's an overlay that you put on during gameplay. You know how we have the ticketer that tells you, what happened with the matches? Maybe we shrink the card space more because, let's be honest, I don't care how many lands and how many creatures are on the board all the time, right? Because we have a lot of quiet moments in Magic. You can put a reminder text that is, Huey Jensen is playing White Weenie, and his goal is to populate the board with multiple small threats and overwhelm your opponent.
And that fixes it? That just by my seeing that fixes it? That lets me...
It's a multi-step process. You have to fundamentally change the way we do Magic broadcasting when we watch a Pioneer event. We're not talking to the people who only play Limited. We're not talking about how this card was trash in Limited but is great in Pioneer. No.
Right.
We're talking about how this card works in Pioneer and the intricacies of how important this card is in these matchups. That's where the gobbledygook really is, right? Let's be real. If I say to you, what's a mid-range deck? What is your answer?
Well, it's complicated. I've got a 60-minute episode on what is mid-range, so that's the part of the problem.
But that's the problem, right? You can throw out some of the more gobbledygook terms in League of Legends and get the context clues. But if I say during a game that Huey Jensen is playing a mid-range deck, and I just keep going from there, and I don't stop to explain mid-range.
But do you think you could? Like what? How would you explain mid-range in just a sentence?
Here's the lessons you can take from poker. They don't explain to you in depth why Ace King, right, is 70% favored to win. Me as a non-poker person will go, cool, 70%. Got it. These cards are on the table. These are the cards in the hand. 70% likely to win. Let's get rid of the 70%. Now, if someone just said, 70% favored because of this combination, I'd be like, well, wait, why is the other hand so bad?
Right. I see what you're saying. So they're playing the match, and they say, we've got a thing, and it says player one is favored to win because their control setup will shut down player two. And then it says watch player two struggle to get anything to work. Everything is being denied by player one, etc. And it's kind of explaining the very broad, very basic concept of what's happening here. And so then as you see player one, and then you can have the coverage person be like, there they go. They're trying to cast their 2/2, goblin, but it's going to get denied. Do you think that that's possible live, though? It sounds like so much to me.
It's not hard to be like, all right, real quick, Huey Jensen playing White Weenie. All right, what does White Weenie do? Right, like having an expert on hand, and like, oh, well, White Weenie just wants to like play a bunch of creatures, play an anthem effect, turn sideways, win. Cool, type that up, right? And then that just gets, boom, put on the screen. Then we have our simple, easy to read, Huey Jensen is playing White Weenie, and this is their goal in the game. Jackie Lee is playing mid-range, and that's her goal in this game, right? Mm-hmm. And they don't have to be long sentences, right? They just pop up video, right? You remember pop-up video, Prof, right?
I do. I made the most embarrassing moment as a instructor was when I tried to connect with my students one day, and I said, "What is this, like pop-up video?" And everyone stared at me, and I go, I swear, I went, like VH1 and at pop-up video, and then someone was like, "That ended before I was born." Oh God!
And this is just the most basic thing that we could do. We can do way better about our commercial breaks. Yes, I love hearing the Amonkhet theme 300 times in a
Sure,
break.
I remember that one where they don't have anything in between for those commercials. They're just going to run like a Magic Arena commercial 15 times, and they've got nothing else to fill it.
Some dumb quiz. I don't care what card... Sorry. Vorthos people, I'm like kind of one of you. Y'all don't matter during coverage. I'm sorry.
Well, not in the way that that's presented. I would argue that if you went and you actually put some money into, let's say, taking a Vorthos content creator and having them put together a 30-second thing that is produced and animated, and it's maybe telling the story of one of the characters, and you've got professional voice actors to voice them and things like that could be interesting. I've always said this is where us casual yet engaging content creators could come in. It's like, I'm not the person you in any way want on coverage whatsoever. I don't know what Bloody Hooks is, so you don't want me on there.
Meat hooks.
But meat hooks, whatever. I don't know. But if you asked me, hey, what about 30, 45 seconds of something really engaging to pass the time as we're in commercial, and you went out to all these other creators, big and small, who are able to organically get crowds in their Twitch streams, get eyeballs on their, YouTube videos, get people reading their articles or listening to their podcasts and all of that cool stuff, and you say, all right, fine, maybe the coverage seat doesn't work, but we got time to fill, and we want to fill that with something engaging. But of course, then you'd have to pay those people. And that's also where you get into a little bit of the problem, is things cost money.
I think that this is where some of the problems for Magic butts heads with other esports. There is, contrary to popular belief, lore for League of Legends. We have a little discourse in the community about how lore has fallen by the wayside. But there's lore, right? Mm-hmm. There's a reason Lee Sin is blind. There is a reason why all of these people are fighting. There's all this lore. I swear, it exists. I promise you. None of it ever comes up on the broadcast. There's some very minute chances that champion interactions have lore. For example, some League of Legends lore. There's a character named Lucian. He's black. He's got 2 guns. He's really angry. He likes to kill ghosts. Thresh, he's a ghost dude. He's the Warden of Souls. He goes around and he steals people's souls and puts them in his lantern. They hate each other. There used to be, just like the fun jokes that people would make when Thresh and Lucian were in the bot lane together, because one's a AD carry and one's a support, and Thresh would throw the lantern for Lucian, and Lucian clicks the lantern, which allows Thresh to bring him to where he is. But, oh wait, the lantern has Lucian's wife in it, right? So you would make a reference to that sometimes in, like, commentary. But lore doesn't matter. And the weird thing about Wizards is they have this philosophy, right? that pro play sells Magic cards. Right? They've always said that, right? That, like, the whole reason we pay for the Pro Tour is it's an advertisement for the game. But how much does the lore matter in the average Magic game?
0.
So when you use your ad space time to show me these lore commercials instead of educating people about the actual game, like, what's the better use of the time? You already know that part of your viewership problem is that nobody knows what the heck is going on, but you're going to use your ad break, all of it, not even a little bit of it, all of it, for either trivia or a commercial that's heavy in lore.
So what you're suggesting then is that those ad breaks maybe should be properly produced educational, dare I say it, lessons, a Tolarian tutor starring Emma Handy instead of me or some other pro player to talk about these concepts in 5-minute, 3-minute digest, whatever. I don't know how long an ad run is, but you've got them chunks.
Yes, and I think that that's a great, because like if I tune into a broadcast, right, and it's during an ad break, I'm just watching the same arena ad on loop. I don't feel like I learn anything, and then I have to, like, do research. You can't tell me that by day 2 of a Mythic Invitational, you can't give me a meta breakdown.
Well, it costs, like I said before, you know, you got to spend some money, though.
So at a GP, when I was working as a judge, Organized Play knew that I also covered esports. I was in a conversation with Helene, and I forget who else was there, and I was asked, why doesn't Magic work as an esport? And one of the first things I said was, you need to stop projection screen, using a projection screen for your deck text. Why is there not a green screen? And, like, there's a monitor for the people talking about the deck, but they don't see it behind them? Why is this a projection screen? This doesn't look like a real broadcast. This looks like a high school production.
I think they don't want to spend the money though there's money. Magic is more, see, this is what gets me personally, is that unless they are lying to us on every front, which I would accept, but there's also some documentation to back up what they're saying, Magic is more profitable than ever. Every year shatters last year's record. That means there's money. My thing is that they're probably saying this: we're making all this money without doing these things. Why should we spend more money when we're already making more money every year? That isn't where we want to spend the money.
And that's the problem, right? Is that we, and I know, Prof, you've heard it too. It's not like I'm making up this statement, but the statement for years and years and years and years has been the Pro Tour exists to sell Magic cards.
Right.
It's not to have the highest competitive play.
Right.
Which they might say nowadays, but they used to just say, oh, the Pro Tour is to sell Magic cards. I think that whatever their return on investment is, right, the amount of money they spend versus how much money they make on Magic cards, they're happy with. And so we as a community, we watch those of us who watch both esports, right, you know, League of Legends Worlds, and that has 1 million concurrent viewers, but then we watch Mythic Invitational 4, and that has 20,000 concurrent viewers, and we go, I know there's going to be people in the chat, in the comments being like, we had this many. I don't care. The
paid view bots were much more interested in our content for a while, and then they just slowly lost interest, I guess. I don't know.
You'll always have people in the comments be like, well, actually, it was 250,000. That's still less than 1 million. The thing is that Watsy might just be like, yeah, sure, it'd be cool if more people watched it, but y'all watch it and y'all buy Magic cards.
Okay, so then sell it to me. Then I think here's a really good thing, which is then why does any of it matter? You tell me. I'm a stuffy, money-obsessed WotC executive, and I'm going to say that exactly to you, which is that we aren't currently spending all this money that you want us to spend on improving our production. Everything you described in terms of what to do during ad breaks, what to do during coverage, all this stuff, that's to do it right, to do it professional, to be competitive in that area is big time money that needs to be invested. And every year that we're not investing that money, we're still shattering records. Commander is turning into one of our biggest money makers, and that is not that is the exact opposite of it. So you tell me why I should go and spend probably millions, if not tens of millions of money that we're not currently spending to make these things you have suggested happen when we are making ungodly amounts already and breaking our records every year.
So the problem is that I can't pretend that this would ever happen because we know from the MPL that WotC doesn't want them having their own sponsors. That was like a big thing that came out of that contract, right? Was that they couldn't be on other teams. They couldn't have their own sponsors. Did you forget that this happened?
No. For me personally, that is such the wrong direction, because that's the smartest thing you could do would be to open it up, encourage it, get someone in there to teach them how to recognize a good deal and or agents and stuff. It's like, that's a great way to bring in money and to not have to spend it yourself. It exasperates me. It exasperates me that they did that.
And things might have changed, so someone might correct me. But when I heard that, I knew that Magic Esports was kind of doomed. Because it seemed like Wizards wasn't interested in endemic partnerships. For those of you who don't know, endemic just means things of the same nature. So, for example, we all know that Prof here has a Card Kingdom sponsorship. That is an endemic sponsorship. Prof makes Magic the Gathering and Magic the Gathering related videos, occasionally does Pokemon. What does Card Kingdom do? Magic product and Magic related accessories. Endemics. When I saw that, I was like, what are they doing? Imagine the Magic Pro Tour brought to you by Wizards of the Coast, Star City, Channel Fireball. And we could talk about capitalism and how it would be unfair to, companies that can't afford to pay for the sponsorship money. But just imagine. Let's talk about how some of these bigger esports, they have State Farm and Alienware and BMW.
Hey, we got Tigtone. We got Tigtone, right? When we get Tigtone, the big recognizable names, huge companies, huge interest. It's again this inferiority complex too, I think, where it's just like we're never going to have relationships with them. And yeah. How are we going to get those relationships?
So here's the thing. If you, and maybe they're trying, right? Again, I'm not in Magic Esports. I don't really know anybody on the team. I've never been a contractor for Magic, especially since Magic Esports was its own division. So I have no insider information to this. But based on watching Mythic Invitationals, I see that we don't have non-endemic sponsors. So what's the harm? And
sure.
Yes, I know that you have this partnership with Ultra Pro. So maybe you don't want to work with Dragon Shields. There's gotta be a middle ground. But if you're not getting sponsors of any variety, endemic or non-endemic, and you're not improving the broadcast to improve the numbers of viewership, to increase the ad revenue, it baffles me. This sheer level of disconnect that is Magic Esports. That it feels like Wizards both understands that it's a loss leader, and that they have a subpar product. Sorry to all of my friends that work on the broadcast, the overall product is subpar.
Right.
And they're just okay with it. For 25 years.
Well, I don't know that they were okay with it. I think that they were very happy with Arena in the first year of Arena. When they came out with Arena, it had the dinosaur graphics. And then they put all that money into the view bots. I don't know your opinion on where they were.
We have that in other esports, so it's...
We do, but I think it's, what I think is more interesting is not that we paid for the view bots, but that we stopped paying for them, that they just were like, I don't want to spend the money on the view bots anymore. And it's just like, oh my God.
Because a bunch of other brands got called out for view botting too. I think it was Overwatch League.
Uh-huh.
And I don't think they stopped. They were just like,
no. Well,
prove it.
That to me is so WotC, is that they start with we're going to go from whatever, I don't know the exact number, again, people in the comments, whatever, but we're going to go from X number of regular viewers, and then Arena comes out and we're going to pay for view bots and we're going to have 1,000,000 times that in terms of viewers. And then 6 months later, it's I don't really want to keep paying for that. And that to me is just such Wizards of the Coast. And I worry, this is my biggest concern, is that's exactly what's going to happen with Arena. You already mentioned the fact that there isn't a spectator mode built in. They never how it could never occur to them. How it could never occur to them to put a spectator mode in it or multiplayer. There is no capability of it, but from every little thing I've heard, and this is just little whispers, they don't know how to put it in. Like, it's not an issue of they're like, oh crap, because they had to work with other companies and such to get Arena made. And while they do have a team in-house now and a little studio in-house, it's not quite the same thing. It's just like with Magic Online, where if you've read those articles about the history of Magic Online, they went out, they got someone else to make it for them, they brought in an in-house little team, and then it was like, uh-oh, we have to graft things on top of software, on top of bad software. But they're repeating the same mistakes. And in 5 years, Arena's gonna look like Magic Online in the world, because they won't know how to do anything. Yeah, it's just, that's what's gonna happen.
What's weird is that they built Arena to spearhead Magic esports, right? That was always the goal, was we're going to build a digital client that makes Standard and Draft look so cool, and we'll do our premier events on Arena because it's more visually engaging, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. But it's an unusable product for literally anyone outside of WotC, because obviously for WotC, right, you don't need a spectator client. You just have people play on 2 computers.
Yeah.
You do everything in the broadcast apparatus. But do you know what makes a successful esport? Things can happen organically and grassroots.
Right.
Mind-boggling to me that CFB, Channel Fireball, needs to use the streamers' feeds to know what's going on. This is why a lot of people had problems with Overwatch, is because people felt that it was made to be an esport, which was not the bad part, but that Blizzard didn't give it time to grow organically. That they wanted to just make something, create a franchise, make a bunch of money, call it a day. It's the same issue I see with Arena. They wanted something for their Magic esport apparatus, but they didn't consider all of the basic stuff you need.
Because that's not their skill set, because this is like half the people at that company have been there 20 plus years and are and know what I mean when I say TSR or whatever. And they're just, it's another mindset and generation. And I would argue, and I actually kind of want to maybe close on this, is what about the argument that maybe esports just isn't for Magic the Gathering? Magic the Gathering existed a quarter of a century without needing any of that stuff, and it's popular and it's profitable, and it's every year's more profitable, and it's doing great. And maybe, just maybe, Magic should, instead of trying to be Hearthstone, should lean into and dive into itself and say, yeah, we are not going to put up coverage necessarily to get a random person switching Twitch channels. We're going to put it up to keep our customers engaged and hooked and addicted, and to have something that they want to be cracking packs for, and that once you are in the know, you become obsessed with. Never mind Arena, we are going to figure out how to do more paper coverage and tabletop coverage, because Hearthstone doesn't have paper cards, and we do, and no one else has anything like that. And we are going to lean into what makes us us, and to hell with esports. Maybe if the answer is Magic isn't a competitive esports, the answer is we should never be. What are your reaction to me, my outrageous comment that maybe we should never even try for it? Maybe that's not us.
I would say that Magic has never really tried to be an esport. Sure, we have the MPL and all this stuff and all the bells and whistles that look like an esport. We never were, we're never going to be. A large part, not due to anybody else, but Wizards. It's WotC. WotC doesn't really want an esport. They want to say it's an esport because somebody up at Hasbro heard that esports is multi-billion-dollar industry and went, we've got Magic. We can be an esport.
Right. Yeah.
Anti-esports club. I love esports, but I hate it. And this is why I hate it. Is because somebody heard esports is $1 billion and went, we should cash in. And I will, as someone who's been working in esports for 7 years, ever that mindset is your first goal, you are doomed to failure, but you're not just doomed to failure, you're doomed to hurting people.
Yes. Yes.
It is, we hear that Magic is an esport, and we have people going, well then why don't we have views? Why don't I have sponsors? Why don't I have this? Why don't I have that? And the thing is, WotC doesn't want you to have it. WotC wants every ounce of your money from being interested in Magic Esport to go to them. Not the ecosystem.
Right.
Not the players. To them. I think it was Jerry Thompson who said that, like, being part of the MPL, that you were supposed to get training on, like, how to grow your stream and stuff, and none of that ever happened. It's by design. Hasbro, and maybe Wizards of the Coast, but probably Hasbro, only wants you to spend money on Magic the Gathering. TM. The official product. It's not designed to be an esport. It's designed to be a monetized game. It's designed to be NBA 2K. You like NBA?
God.
You like basketball players? You want to play a basketball game? Cool. By the way, here's this addictive trading system where you buy character cards and stuff. That's all it is. The second they released a battle pass.
It's the greediest. It's what gets me is the blatant greed in it, because I listen, and before anybody starts with the, well, what do you expect from a company? It's like, well, have a little self-restraint. I mean, I want views, but and such, but I do rein it in a little bit in terms of the clickbait. Like, there's a limit, there's a line, and it just feels like Arena is let us just stick that vacuum nozzle into their pockets and suck until all we get is lint.
So all of these Magic people on my Twitter, right? When I did this thread, they said, well, oh, League is terrible. It's never going to be like League. Have y'all looked at Legends of Runeterra?
I have, and I recommend everybody go check out Legends of Runeterra, which is an amazing game, one of the best economies.
You can just buy cards. Just imagine that. You want Trundle in your deck? I can put money into the game, get lore coins, and buy Trundle.
Runeterra is so wonderful.
Let's go even crazier, chat. Chat, let's go crazier. I can log in, not have played a single game in a week, and get stuff. Gems? Cards? Madness. Can you do that in Magic the Gathering trading card game, Magic Arena?
But you can't trade the cards. It's not technically a trading card game. It's not technically a trading card game. Now, I got to tell you, and when you look, especially when you were talking about the idea of them not of them wanting to be the only mouth in the ecosystem, as it were, and you look at so many things, and I would argue that they've looked at all of the money that was being made on the secondary market, and they are actively working with things like Secret Layers, which has become a huge moneymaker for them, to be like, no, we're the secondary market. Now, we're going to look at that as money that we were leaving on the table. We're going to look at how much people pay each other to alter their cards. We want to be able to just provide you with altered cards and all those gimmicky things. We don't want anyone else making money off of Magic the Gathering but ourselves. And I feel and now we're starting to get into a slightly larger topic, but I think that that ecosystem of all that money that they weren't personally making was part of what made Magic so engaging, addictive, engrossing, a lifetime quarter of a century game, and that them trying to say we're going to scoop all that money up off the table is just going to leave a wasteland. And in terms of Magic's online presence, I honestly believe Arena and all the things you discussed here today are leading to that wasteland. I think this has been a fantastic, though, and engaging conversation. Amanda, if people want to find you, find more from you, where can that happen?
Where you can find me on the internet is on Twitter at Amanda, T as in taxi, N as in net Stevens. That's my Twitter. That's where you'll get a lot of my gaming hot takes. I talk a lot about diversity and inclusion, especially for POC and trans people in gaming. I don't really make content anymore. You can find my Twitch stream and watch me play games that you have no interest in. And that's twitch.tv/sagegnosis. And that's it. I'm not a content creator anymore. I
got bad news for you. You're here. This is content. You created content. You thought you got out. We dragged you right back in.
If you hold up 7 mana and a player is playing blue, what do you suspect?
7 mana and on blue, you're going to absolutely get Cyclonic Rifted until they eventually ban it.
Not when you're playing against Ken.
Because, sometimes I just hold it up just to scare you. And I'll be like, go ahead, put down something. And then as soon as they get back to me, I don't have nothing. I'm just playing around with you.
But one thing I noticed specifically about Newmont, I'm not scared of Cyclonic Rift when 7 mana is up. He has Angel of the Dire Hour. This is a 7 mana, 5 and 2 white, flash. When it enters the battlefield, exile all target attacking creatures.
Gotta conceal those intentions, baby.